everybody and welcome back to Chrissy and Nath Keeping It Real. It's Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK. So today what I'm going to be doing is talking to you about my personal mental health journey, the medication that I'm taking at the moment, and just to answer a few questions that people generally ask me. Just over 2.5 years ago, I got to the point where I didn't know why I was feeling this way, but I constantly felt like I had a dark cloud hanging over me. Everything seemed to take effort. Really small things like just being able to get up in the morning, have a shower, brush your teeth, have breakfast were just taking absolutely everything out of me. I was tired all the time. I just didn't have any motivation to do anything. The GP, and I just said, look, I'm not coping. I don't know what's wrong, but this is how I feel. He then diagnosed me with anxiety and depression, which for me was a massive shock. I put it down to so many different things. I thought maybe because my job's quite stressful at the moment, or I'm not eating right, I'm not exercising enough, just absolutely everything apart from depression and anxiety. A big part of the reason I was apprehensive or even decided not to take the antidepressant is the stigma that it has in the Black community. This is my experience that I've had, so this is not by any means trying to tar everybody with the same brush. I know lots of people of colour that have had really positive experiences with their challenges with mental health in their communities. So again, it's just my experience, guys, okay? In the Black Christian community, from what I know of it, there is a massive stigma against seeking out professional help. A lot of the time it's seen as something that you can pray away. It's your sins that have got you to this point. You're not fasting enough, you're not praying enough, there's something that you're not doing that isn't right. They've attached so much importance and this is why this is happening. It makes people really skeptical to seek a professional. Part of the reason I find that so mind-boggling is because if somebody has a headache, people are very quick to say, go grab a paracetamol, go and have an ibuprofen. But if I'm telling you that I'm experiencing something that I have to live with, it's challenging me mentally on a day-to-day basis, I think I need to see a doctor, you know? Part of the reason I didn't take the medication as well was truthfully some guilt and shame that I had hanging over me for that. I felt like I was a failure and I was weak. I thought there are so many people in the world that are dealing with massive issues. There's world hunger, there's poverty, people that don't have a roof over their head, they don't know where their last meal's coming from. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm living a great life. I've got a stable job, I've got a partner that loves me, a roof over my head, my family are well. What is it that I could possibly have to be depressed about? It made that cloud hanging over me. It's like just weighing it down even more, and I just started to feel more and more things to beat myself up about, which of course is not good. At the time, a lot of people recommended to me, why don't you try do some exercises? I'm sorry, but if I don't have the bloody motivation to get out of bed and feed myself, to keep myself alive, I don't think I'm going to be biting your hand off to do burpees at 6 o'clock in the morning in the park. Just saying. I started to feel significantly better in terms of the depression, but I realised that my anxiety was now through the roof. I am naturally quite a strong and confident person. I like to fix things. I like to be quite independent. I felt weak having to put my hand up and say, I need help, I can't do this by myself, I'm struggling. And I didn't realise how much that was reflecting in our relationship. I'd come home from work, I would just be a wreck some days inside, but I'm just trying to play it off like everything is cool. I'm thinking Nathan's had a hard day as well. The last thing that he needs is just to hear me like, oh my God, I had such a bad day, oh my God, someone like someone standing by the photocopy, I'm like, trying to be strong, just keep it all in. Nathan's asking me what's wrong. I'm saying there's nothing wrong because honestly, sometimes you feel like you can't actually put your finger on what the issue is. You can't say, I'm upset about this thing in particular, or I'm stressed about that. It is just this, almost this feeling of impending doom. That feeling that you get just as you tip over a roller coaster where your heart, your stomach's in your stomach's in your chest? Your stomach's in your heart. When you have that feeling, that's what it feels like pretty much all of the time. Just because you don't have, you might not have any physical attributes of an illness, doesn't mean it can't still take a toll on your body. I had an Apple Watch that would gauge my heart rate, and on a normal day my heart rate would be between sort of 88 beats per minute and 94, which is quite high. It should be around the 60 something mark, but that is because my body was constantly in this state of like, and it was exhausting. I was trying not to push my woes and my struggles on Nathan. So I'd be saying, I'm okay, everything's fine, it's all good. He's got eyes, he can see that it's not all good. Now there's a bit of tension and he's worrying. What's going on? What isn't she telling me? He's now in a bit of a funk. I ask him what's wrong. He says nothing's wrong. I'm looking at him like, there clearly is, mate, I can see ya. Then it's just a vicious cycle. Nathan always wants to fix things and make sure I'm okay and help as much as possible. He couldn't help me because I didn't know what the problem was and I didn't know how I needed to be helped or what I needed done. So he has this feeling of helplessness, and it just wasn't a very positive environment. It's not like we were arguing or anything like that. I could just tell that, you know, some of the love was lost, and not because we had fallen out of love with each other, but just something in the air wasn't really sitting right. We are very tactile. We're always, you know, taking the piss out of each other, and that's kind of what we lost. At that point, I realized I need help. I need to speak to someone. When I felt like I was only hurting myself, if you will, or it was just my problem, I could deal with that. But when I looked at Nathan and I could see how much it was hurting him, it was clear that this isn't fair and, you know, I need to do something. Day-to-day life had started to become a lot more challenging again, and the smallest things would make me cry. There was a day I had a client meeting, and it was a really big client. I was going with my manager and I had put the address in the sat nav. So let's say it's 124 Roger Square. What I've gone is Roger Terrace, not too far from each other. As soon as I realised this had happened, I just broke down in tears and I was inconsolable. I just felt like I'd made the biggest mistake in the world. I was a failure, I was gonna get fired, I was absolutely in bits. And my manager, she was so lovely about it. She took me into a coffee shop and she said, look, I've been there as well. You're clearly not managing. You need to go and speak to someone. I've been quite honest with her just about how I was feeling. That felt like a weight off my shoulders almost, because going back to the point of feeling that shame for having mental health issues, you just think I'm the only person that it ever happens to. Nobody else in the world has ever dealt with this. It's just me, and I can't believe this is happening, and it's a lot more common than you think. I thought, right, do you know what? I can do it. I can go to the doctor and just look at the different options that are available to me, because up until then I sort of just assumed that there's one medication fits all for what, you know, for whatever challenge you're facing. Take that, you're going to turn into a zombie, and good luck. I went back to the doctor, explained to him how I was feeling, and what's funny is when I first got in there, you know, you sit down, like, how can I help you today? I just said to, I can laugh about it now, which is brilliant, but I sat there and I just said, I'm not managing. And I burst into tears. Tears, you know, and he came over with his little box of tissues. It's okay. He was very sweet about it. He was a lot more reassuring about what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, and really just drove it home that I'm not the only person that's ever dealt with this. He was talking me through the numbers and the stats and whatnot, and it truly did shock me, because when you're dealing with anxiety, it can be such a lonely and isolating place. Even if you are around, you know, tons and tons of people, it's so easy to get in your own head and to start to have these constant thoughts that you know are, what's that I'm looking for, irrational. I know that really and truly, if I make one mistake, I'm not gonna get fired from my job. I'm gonna be okay, you know? But it's just that constant feeling that you're just on edge all the time. When I went to the doctor this time around, I was diagnosed with anxiety and I was prescribed Sertraline. Sertraline is a drug in a group of medications called SSRIs. SSRIs are used to treat a range of conditions from anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, and panic attacks. I take 50 milligrams a day, which is just one teeny tiny tablet that you can take. I usually take mine in the morning just as soon as I wake up, so I remember, and that's it, nothing else to do during the day. Sertraline works by bringing the balance of a chemical in your brain up called serotonin. If you imagine a person, just called a normal healthy person, has 100 serotonins in their brain. Someone that's dealing, let me just talk about myself for example, with anxiety, what's happening is that I've got less serotonin than a standard healthy person. The sertraline just brings your serotonin from right here to right there. Start taking it. The sertraline takes about a week or so to bring your serotonin levels up, and then probably about 4 to 6 weeks before it is fully in your system and you've sort of leveled off a little bit. The first week is quite uncomfortable because you do start to experience some side effects. By taking the sertraline, I was also taking some really strong antibiotics for a bout of, I think that time I had tonsillitis and bronchitis. So I do feel like I felt the side effects a bit more because I was already unwell. Most common side effects people tend to experience would be insomnia, drowsiness, nausea, that was horrible, twitching, not like crazy twitching, but just a bit like, not like that, just a, you know, like when your arm goes, you can just feel it twitching a bit, something like that, and strange dreams, really strange dreams. On the insomnia and the drowsiness thing, it is absolutely crazy being drowsy, but you can't sleep. It feels like your eyes are so heavy that they want to close, but if you actually do close your eyes, it feels like you've got a 10,000 megawatt bulb in your head and you cannot switch your brain off for love nor money. And having those two fighting against each other is actually hell. Because I was taking antibiotics as well as the sertraline, my nausea was through the roof. I lost probably just over a stone, maybe. I think in about 10 or 12 days, maybe. I couldn't keep anything down. Having to force myself to eat something, to maybe like a piece of bread, nothing too foodie. I had been signed off because of my bronchitis and laryngitis, so thankfully I didn't have to deal with all of this at work. Most days I pretty much just laid there on the sofa because I actually could not get up. Yeah, it wasn't the best. The doctor told me that strange dreams are one of the side effects of the medication. I just thought, nah, be alright. Nope. I was having the most bizarre dreams. They're not nightmares. I can't even explain it. Things like the sun turned into a wheel of cheese and the floor was literally lava and cars are driving with triangle wheels. Just very strange things. I wake up certain mornings and what's going on in there? Another thing worth mentioning is that in men, one of the side effects can be reduced quality of sperm. That's very different to saying that it makes you impotent. That is a massive stretch, not what I'm saying. But what they do say is that once you stop taking sertraline, that's pretty much reversed and the sperm quality just goes right back to normal. For women, there aren't any known side effects or anything that could maybe interrupt if you were trying to conceive. As far as they know, as far as we've been told, it's safe, but with any medication that you take, if you're trying to conceive, always consult your doctor. Questions I get the most is how do they make you feel, which I can look at now and find quite funny. Before I had any type of information or knowledge or understanding, I just thought, take this pill and it sends you crazy. Because on TV, when you hear about anyone that's dealing with mental issues, you know, just give them a Prozac and it sends them nuts, or they turn into a zombie or stuff like that. And it's the complete opposite. I just feel normal. I just feel like myself. I just feel like small things like, again, getting up, having a shower, going to the shop doesn't fill me with absolute dread. It is still quite hard for me. I have social anxiety and I have OCD. It can be hilarious. Like, I'm sitting here saying I have social anxiety and I'm potentially putting myself out there for hopefully millions of people to see. But it's a massive misconception that if you're confident, you can't have mental health issues when, I mean, what does someone who has issues with mental health look like? Like, am I supposed to wear a sign every day? I don't really get, I don't know what people want. What I can say is that the world just feels a little bit brighter. It's almost like that feeling of when you first put a new pair of glasses on and you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually see. That's how everything feels. It feels like just that little bit of excitement and fun, and the willingness and the want to do things has returned, which is brilliant. So I don't feel any different. I completely still feel like myself. The way I would put it is that in life, everyone has their struggles, right? Let's imagine your struggles are in hand luggage. A good way for me to describe this medication is that instead of you having to physically hold your hand luggage, it just pops it onto a little wheelie trolley that you can pull with you. So you still are you're still facing the same issues that you're facing, so to speak. You're just in a much, much, much better space to be able to deal with them rationally. One of my big fears when I first started taking medication was that I would have to be on them forever, and that was something that I discussed with my doctor as well, and I was informed that you don't have to be on them forever. They do say to you, you need to be on them for a minimum of, I think, 3 to 6 months, just because you need to give your body time to adjust to the new levels of serotonin. And it's just that adjustment period where you start to feel the majority of the side effects. Some of them can carry on. A decreased sex drive is one of them. That's one of those things that you have to almost take a risk on, because there's no real way of saying how much this medication would affect each person's libido. It's just touch and go, you know. With the majority of medications, it would be quite dangerous to just stop cold turkey. So if you are going to come off them, you have to speak to your doctor, and they'll talk about lowering your dose gradually. It is definitely not something that I see myself on forever. I was due to have an appointment with my GP to talk about my dose, to see how I'm feeling a year on, and Corona happens, so we'll see whenever that happens. But for now, I'm happy. I'm in a really, really, really good space. The goal is definitely to safely come off them. It's not something that I see myself being on forever, but it's also important to mention that alongside this, there are lots of other things that I do. Taking care of myself, I was definitely that person that was trying to be the hero all the time and be there for everyone, and not really talking about my problems, because I feel everyone else has so much that's going on at the moment. I've learned to put myself first. If there are things that I don't want to do, I'm just not going to do them. That's that. Going back to my point earlier about you know, like mental health in the Black Christian community, there's also this idea that you have to constantly put people before yourself. It's the Christian thing to do, it's the right thing to do, which, yes, we must all look out for each other. Nobody gets far in life by themselves. You need a team, but don't neglect yourself at the same time. You shouldn't put somebody else first at your expense. If you need to take some time out to just not speak to anyone or just be in your own space, then you do that, because you're number one, baby. Overall, I am in such a brilliant space now, and it's taken a lot to get here, but I'm proud of how far I've come. There's something so amazingly liberating about, you know, sitting down with a professional and just talking through things that you have experienced and how you're feeling, and knowing that you're not alone, and that millions and millions and millions of people in the world deal with this. Being able to accept that help has been transformative in my life, and I'm not gonna lie, there are still days when I really do struggle. There are still days when I feel super anxious, but I'm so blessed and so thankful and grateful to have a partner like Nathan, who understands what my triggers are, understands when I could be feeling slightly irritable, and he knows how to help me help myself as well, which is important. No man is an island. Everybody needs help. Everybody goes through things at one point in their life. I've got to the point now where I can see the beauty in asking for help, and I completely understand now that there is nothing wrong with asking for help. It doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't make you weak. We are all human and we all struggle. So if there is anyone out there that is watching that's maybe being a bit hesitant to seek help, There's so much out there for you. Your road might be quite different to medication. It might be that there are therapies that you can do that will help you, or even just speaking to someone. Reach out, get help. You are not alone. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. As I mentioned, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme this year is Be Kind. So spread love, spread positivity, and spread good vibes. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.